Good evening po. Good evening sa ating lahat po.
Okay. It's still fresh in our memory, Sec, no? 5.5 thousand flood control projects. We understand this is nationwide. Nasaan-saan po ba ito?
Nationwide po.
Right. Can you put that into perspective for us? Are these the best kinds of flood control methodologies that are applied per area? I know you can be more technical with us. Anong klaseng flood control projects ba ito? We know that the President has given you the marching orders to integrate itong mga flood control projects to be able to trap the water and use it for power generation, for irrigation, and for consumption. Yes, can you give us an update, a more clear and more broken down update?
Well, let me just point out a little bit actually what the President said in his own actually, that since for the last 2 years, 2022, since we assumed the office in this administration, until 2024, I think, we were able to implement more than 5,000 flood control projects all over the country. So that's for 2 years. That's for 2 years. And we are currently implementing again another 5,000 projects starting 2024 up to 2025.
Right, but where are the bulk of
These
these
are all
projects?
distributed. These are all distributed all over the country po. Because there are 400 plus principal rivers and many other small rivers all over the country. And there are 18 major river basins all over the country that needs to be attended to, actually. So it's a real big job, actually, to contain all the flood control problems all over the country. So, these are, I think what we have done so far is actually quite effective in some of the areas that we have already implemented some of these projects.
Can you give us an example of an area, Sec, where it should have flooded but hindi po bumaha dahil po dun sa na-implement in the last 2 years na flood control project?
Like for example, we have done a big project in Cagayan de Oro. And Cagayan de Oro, the part of Pampanga, and parts of dito sa Central Luzon. And, there are many other projects that I could cite. Dito sa Cavite area, we are doing big projects. We are doing some projects in Mindanao as well. So, yun po. And, of course, Metro Manila is another thing. No? Metro Manila is... the DPWH is actually assisting Metropolitan Development Authority because I have to make clear that the flood control responsibility in Metro Manila is under the Metropolitan Development Authority. DPWH is assisting them in putting up yung facilities, including the rehabilitation of the old pumping stations. To increase their pumping capacity, their output capacities at this point in time.
Secretary, out of the 5,500 projects that you mentioned, what percentage of that?
2 years. 2 years.
What percentage of that is in progress? Ilan po yung natapos na? At yun nga po, no? Oo.
Tapos na po yung what the President said is we were able to complete 5,500 projects in 2 years. Now, we are in the process of implementing another 5,000 flood control projects all over the country at this time. It will take us another 2 years to implement 5,000 projects.
Well, Secretary, help us understand, though, the images that we're seeing and we've been seeing the past days, even with the amount of flood control projects that you've done, bakit po ba hindi masolusyonan itong pagbaha sa Metro Manila? What is causing this? And does that mean that some of them may not be as effective as we want them to be?
It's a little complicated po yung flooding problems in Metro Manila. For one thing, let me just say that parang marami na nagsasabi that what was happening in the last 2 days, yung last 2 days is parang palaondo, you know, and it's almost the same volume of rainwater that that came down actually yung Undoy time in 2009 and yung yesterday. So, yung Undoy po, as I recall, yung Undoy na nangyari sa atin pero at that time in 2009, the flood water stayed in Metro Manila for more than a week. Now, it is a little bit, itong kwan natin ngayon, I think just a few, today, I think most of the waters in Metro Manila has already receded. So, and most of the roads are already passable. Although there are still some flooded areas, but these are already passable to heavy vehicles. But certainly, I'm sure that by tomorrow, everything will be cleared up.
You don't seem to see the flooding in Metro Manila as the responsibility of the DPWH, but Senate President Cheese Escudero, for one, does see it as the responsibility of the DPWH because just today he's called for an investigation into the matter. Sabi niya, it's a repetitive cycle. And true enough, every time there's a disaster, diba, we deploy rescue and relief efforts.
I have to clear this out, because several years ago, MMDA, under their charter, insisted that they have to take care of the flood control program of Metro Manila. Before it was under DPWH. I was then under secretary at that time. But then they insisted that they have, under their charter, they should be responsible for the flood control program of Metro Manila. So they took it stock, lock, and barrel, including our manpower, equipment, and everything.
That was when, Secretary?
Many years back, maybe 12 years ago or 15 years ago.
But yet, yun nga, the senators, chief of whom is Senate President Escudero, is calling for an investigation. Sabi niya, DPWH and MMDA should come together and find a solution to end this cycle of severe flooding in the metro. And he said 255 billion pesos was allocated for the DPWH's flood control projects in the national budget. He himself is questioning saan napunta.
We can explain it to the good senator po. I think we can explain to the good senator actually where the projects have been allocated.
That amount of money, Secretary, how much of it went to Metro Manila? Would you know?
There is the only thing that I know in Metro Manila is that there is an ongoing World Bank assisted project for the rehabilitation of pumping stations po.
Which areas would that be?
There are, I think, if I am not mistaken, there are about 34 pumping stations that being rehabilitated. As I explained, rehabilitation means that we are actually increasing the output capacities of this because these pumping stations were installed actually, I think, about 30 years ago, and many of them have outlived yung mga kanilang efficiencies, so we are rehabilitating them. This program started during the time of Secretary Singson, and then it went carried over under Secretary Villar at that time. But unfortunately, it was his time slowed down because of pandemic. Now we are implementing it under this administration.
But to your estimate, like looking at this, the severity of this problem, are pumping stations enough? Or what do we have to do to finally solve this and make it better?
For me, I think one of the problems in Metro Manila is that the internal drainage of Metro Manila is very old. It's no longer adequate for the capacity to discharge the rainwater, because at that time we have to remember that the drainage system of Metro Manila was installed more than 50 years ago. And at that time, siguro naman, wala pa masyadong bahay, hindi pa masyadong paved ang mga lansangan, etc. So there is there are areas where rainwater can circulate actually underground. Now, Metro Manila is almost concreted everywhere. So, and then the yun hong drainage system in Metro Manila are very old, and there was a study at one point in time that it's already 70% silted because of garbage.
Okay, Secretary, I saw a post on Facebook. It was saying, do you know why basically hindi bumabaha sa BGC? It's because there's like a 5-story water detention center under Fort Bonifacio. We understand that Fort Bonifacio was constructed, relatively recently in our lifetimes.
Yes,
but
yes,
is it possible to do a back job on the drainage system of Metro Manila? Of course, urbanization has been very intense also in the past how many decades, right, since it was built. But kaya pa ba nating repasuhan yan after the fact? How much would it cost? And factoring in, of course, that we do have a subway upcoming. I know they've also built water detention facilities for the subway as well. Is there a way still to fix this?
I think it can be fixed, actually, but it has to be a joint venture siguro between Metropolitan Development Authority and the local government units. See, I think yung internal drainage should be also the responsibility of the local government units, and actually even the waste management is actually under the local government units. See, it has the engineering solution well, it can be implemented in time, probably if we have all the resources. But again, it has to be collaborated with other environmental issues that are needed actually para maging efficient naman yung flood control system.
So the way you're seeing it is this is also a problem of jurisdiction. Kumbaga parang nagkakanya-kanya, kaya hindi maayos o magawa.
Well, hindi naman yung the jurisdiction has been identified actually. It has been identified.
Right. Follow up to that, Sec Manny, like you said kanina, nasa mandato na ng MMDA ang flood control projects within the entire Metro Manila. Ang tanong ko is, tama ba yung intindi ko na it is now, kumbaga, against the law kung makikialam kayo with flood control projects in Metro Manila because it's now not your mandate?
I think we have to give the responsibility to MMDA. As I said, we are already giving them assistance for the rehabilitation of the pumping stations around. So that's what we are doing actually to assist them, because after we have rehabilitated all these pumping stations that we are doing, we will again turn it over to MMDA for them to operate and maintain.
Right, Sec, but even if you rehabilitate the 34 outdated pumping stations, combined with our 50-plus-year-old flood control system in Metro Manila, sapat na po ba yun? Yeah, sapat na po ba yun na combination nun? If we are able to rehab all the pumping stations, for example, will that kind of guarantee na hindi na masyadong grabe yung baha?
Palagay ko, I think it will help very, very much. It will help very much, provided waste management has to be controlled as well. No? Kasi you may have a good designed drainage system. When everybody is throwing out garbage anywhere, it will just block actually naman yung piping systems natin. That's what's happening actually.
Okay, so garbage collection, another thing that actually the President did mention alongside
I take your point that it is primarily the MMDA's responsibility alongside the LGUs. But the fact remains, sir, that the 255 billion pesos that we're talking about tonight was granted to the DPWH. So my question to you is, how much assistance, given that we are in times of crisis now, this is a calamity, and again, this keeps happening to Metro Manila, how much assistance is now your agency willing to provide, and how much more are you willing to do to help the other agencies solve this problem once and for all? If we had already, especially if we had already pinpointed that it's a drainage problem as well.
Well, this is something that we have to discuss with MMDA and the local government units, siguro. And it's a matter of discussing it with them. And of course, I think we have to discuss this where the resources would be taken out. Actually, it's not only Metro Manila that would need up to the resources as well. Marami pang other parts of the country that we have to attend to naman.
Secretary, several senators have raised the possibility that this flooding may have been brought about by the reclamation projects over at the Manila Bay. We understand 22 have already been stopped, but there are still projects that have been continued. Could this be a possibility na ito po ang dahilan kaya hindi makalabas ang tubig mula sa Metro Manila papunta sa Manila Bay?
Well, this is a very technical issue, and I would like to find out actually what was the basis of how some of the senators had come to that proposition. There has to be a scientific basis actually to say that the reclamation project is causing the flooding problems in Metro Manila. We have to understand also that's a big area in the cultural center area. If you know that area, yung malaki yung area na yan that was actually reclaimed before, di ba?
Right.
Okay.
Sa may Manila Film Center, no?
Yes, it's a big area that has been reclaimed before. I don't know. I think what I know is that many countries are actually undertaking itong mga reclamation programs nila in areas, and it has to be technically justified naman.
Okay, well,
that it will not impact on the environmental issues actually. I think many of these reclamation areas have undergone environmental assessment, and the environmental impact assessment certificates have been issued also by the DENR.
Okay, right. Well, I hope you will be willing to share with us here on the show again once you get to the end of your investigation kung meron nga ba talagang correlation between the reclamation. But kasi bumaha din po sa Diokno, sa may Makapagal area, sir, and that's also a reclamation area. So we'll leave you to that, but thank you so much for talking to us this evening. Secretary Manny Bonoan of the Department of Public Works and Highway. Maraming salamat.